It's fabulous to be with you, and thank you, Sheriff Martinez, and for your work and as chairman of the coalition, 40 years in law enforcement. And thank you, Clint McDonald of Terrell County, Texas, and Larry Guerra of El Paso, and my friends Harold Evenson and Jonathan Thompson. Jonathan, I saw you just ran into you out there. Jonathan and the Sheriff's Association have been so helpful to us in everything we've done since we started in this Department of Justice. And I want to personally say how much I appreciate this association's support for me personally and the agenda that we've worked on. It's been a special relationship, and I appreciate it very much. Good to see Sheriff Leon Wilmot and Mark Daniels. Where'd Mark go? He showed me around on his neighborhood a little over a year ago now, I guess. And I'm not sure we thought this day would arrive and I'd actually be able to respond to some of your specific concerns that you gave me on that day that all made sense and were certainly realistic there. So, Mark, you've been one of the strongest advocates for lawfulness on the southern border. You've sounded the alarm, this association has. You made clear to the country that what has been happening is not acceptable. We've got to do better, and we can do better, and we are going to do better. The President is absolutely determined. You saw his last week, his actions about zero tolerance. He expects us to not just play around with this problem, but to fix it, and that's certainly my goal. So it's super to be with all of you today. I had the opportunity to visit the U.S. Attorney's Office in Albuquerque earlier today, and so we'll be visiting the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Las Cruces later on. John Anderson, did I get John in here? Where's John? He needs to be recognized, but I guess I don't see him. But he's here. He's a new U.S. Attorney in Albuquerque. He had a number of years in that office. We had maybe 60 or 80 of his staff that I spoke with. He called the name of every one of them. So he's returning to his home. He understands these issues. He's committed to them, and in fact, doing better here than probably any sector of the border in handling the challenges that we face. Steve Cook, where is Steve? Right here. If you know Steve, well, you a police officer or a deputy? Both. All right. Let's get it straight. So Steve started out that way, became a United States Attorney, Assistant United States Attorney, which he did in Easton, Tennessee for many years. He was elected chairman of the Assistant United States Attorneys Association, and we found, to my dismay, that the office of liaison for state and local law enforcement hadn't been filled in the Department of Justice in some time. And so I think he's been a super hire. He's certainly been fabulous to me. He knows law enforcement. He cares about it. He's been just a rock-solid ally in our effort. And I know many of you have gotten to know Steve, and I hope you'll continue that relationship. So I want to thank, on behalf of President Trump, who stands firm for law enforcement, to thank each of you for your service and to tell you we have your back and we support you and the efforts you and your team make every day to make our community safer, and to stand up for law and order and discipline and public safety. We recognize that you are, in fact, the thin blue line between law-abiding people and the criminals. Between a family's security and danger for the family, you protect us and our communities. You secure our country from drugs and violence. It is a massive challenge you face. We want you to reach your highest productive ability. We at the Department of Justice want to help you. We know that 85% of law enforcement is state and local. President Obama sent us 3 executive orders. 1, back the women and men in blue. That's the first one we got. Second one was to reduce crime in America. It's a little thing like that. It's been going up. We want to reduce crime in America, make our communities safer, and he particularly asked us to assist and go after and dismantle the international, transnational criminal organizations that are out there. And you here in this area on the border are confronted with that to a degree. Most are not. We solicit your help. Sometimes the federal abilities to go transnational, go across our state lines can help you make those big cases that go from the street level to a monumentally important case. So, we want to be your partner in that. I think it's particularly important because what the border does in fact impact the whole country. 2,000-mile border leaves our country vulnerable to transnational criminal organizations. These are drug cartels, street gangs like MS-13. I don't know how much you have here, but you have some. Just one of our little special goals is to dismantle and destroy MS-13. That is a violent gang in Islip, New York. I met the two ladies, two families, fathers and mothers, of the two 16-year-old girls that were murdered with baseball bats and machetes there by MS-13. It's just, I met them beforehand, and the president invited them to the State of the Union address. So this is a violent gang. We're just committed. We believe we can damage them severely and hopefully dismantle them. But there are a lot of other ones out there, and probably some in your neighborhood a lot bigger than MS-13. But I'm just personally ask you, let's don't let MS-13 slide. If you got some information, let's see if we can't get them done. Most of the heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl in this country is coming across the border. We know that. It's odd how it's all happened. I used to fly it in. We used to have shrimp boats coming into Mobile, Alabama, Biola Battery, and shrimp guys would make a bunch of money until they all started going to jail and they quit. And then the planes, we'd have planes, and that kind of going on. So now it's been coming across the border almost exclusively, shipped all over the country. So you are also on the front lines of that, and we know that we can do better about it. We want to be better in dealing with it. And the drugs that we are seeing, based on their purity, particularly, are the most deadly we've ever seen. This country has never seen the kind of deaths that we're seeing. In 2015, we had 52,000 overdose deaths. In 2016, it jumped to 64,000 overdose deaths. 17, the preliminary numbers look like it's 66,000 overdose deaths. Those death numbers need to go down. We do not need to continue to allow this unprecedented death toll impact our country. I know probably some of you are calling and carrying Narcan with your officers. The public safety, I believe, here in New Mexico is all carrying that. That's happening all over the country. We even need it for our own officers who find themselves in contact with pure fentanyl. It's a deadly, deadly substance, and we've got to do better about it. So wearing the badge takes courage, but officers on the border are facing, no doubt about it, the most significant challenges still. You have limited resources, you have manpower needs, bed space needs, equipment needs, and you face a particularly violent threat every day. We have a crisis here. We know it, the President knows it, and we're determined to do something about it. That's a goal that I committed. Last month, we saw a significant increase in illegal border crossings from the lows we saw last year, enough to make us really concerned. We saw a steep drop after President Trump's inauguration. Just the force of that election and all impacted the flow in a significant way downward. But the record flows of, but we're seeing increasing flows and worry that we might see more this summer. So we're going to step up our efforts to achieve zero tolerance and zero releases and 100% prosecution wherever possible. And it's not it's not possible probably that we can do everything we'd like to do this year, but we're moving in that direction and we're going to make some real progress. Some of it, we believe the increase in illegal crossings could be due to the Trump economy. Things are going well and economically, and people may be coming for that reason. The lack of the wall on the southern border is an open invitation to illegal crossings. The failure of Congress to move on the wall and other necessary steps is sending a message, I'm afraid, that we are not resolute, and it encourages more people to make the trip, which is what we don't want to do. But the increased crossings are happening because of the loopholes in our laws. They're being exploited by illegal aliens and open border radicals every day. For example, the last administration received large numbers of illegal aliens who illegally crossed the border. They released them, and they claimed, though, they couldn't be sent home because of fear. Unsurprisingly, the exploitation and the abuse of the credible fear loophole has been a big problem for us. If any of you talk to our Border Patrol officers, and ICE officers, and HSI people, and the U.S. attorneys that we're dealing with this, you know that that's true. After the release from custody, particularly for the unaccompanied minors, a large number of the aliens simply just disappear. They abscond, never showing up for their hearings in court. The vast majority who do show up or have shown up have had their asylum claims denied because they weren't good asylum claims to begin with. Their claims are not justified. Often they're just totally bogus claims. Just because you have a danger in one town, in Mexico or any other country, doesn't mean you can't go to some other place in that country. If somebody feels danger here, doesn't mean you get the right to demand citizenship or entry into Canada. Give me a break. That's not the way the system's ever been intended to work. Many smugglers and transnational criminal organizations have been exploring another loophole in our immigration laws that pertains to the ability to quickly return the purported unaccompanied alien children back to the countries from where they came. We can return UACs to Canada and Mexico relatively quickly, but because of loopholes in our laws, the large numbers of UACs from Central America are not able to be returned quickly. It's very difficult and prolonged. Instead, these young people are being released into their communities to someone who takes custody of them. We don't know who these people are. They come from Islip, New York. They come from Maryland. They come from Virginia. They come from San Francisco. They come from all over the country. Many of them may indeed be drug smugglers and criminals themselves. This is not a healthy way for us to operate. We've got to fix this problem. And it's encouraging people to make the trip that shouldn't be making the trip at great expense and risk. They know this. They understand it, and that's why so many come. It's frustrating the work of our Customs and Border Protection officers places their lives at greater risk than they should be. It utilizes immense amounts of time, effort, and resources to confront these problems. It's just not a common sense approach for any nation that wants to establish a feasible, workable immigration system. And we're getting criminals within our young people that are coming across the border. We just heard about it from some of your members earlier, a few minutes ago. But in 4 days, at the end of March, Customs and Border Protection apprehended 5 juveniles who were allegedly smuggling this killer fentanyl across the border. Between the 5 of them, they allegedly had more than 16 kilograms of fentanyl. 16 kilograms. That's enough to kill millions of people. I also seized a great deal of cocaine that could deal death to thousands. So I could go on about those examples. Most of you know that. There are many more stories, not to mention the countless deaths from drug overdoses that we see every day. This is not acceptable. It cannot continue. No one can defend the way the system is working today. We are a strong, prosperous, and orderly nation, and such a nation must have a lawful system of immigration. No, every nation has borders, but let no one contend that we reject immigration, that we want to wall off America, they say, and separate us from the whole globe. That's a totally bogus argument. We admit 1.1 people in this country, 1.1 million people every year to lawful permanent residence in America. People apply from all over the globe. They're accepted. People with family connections under current law are have an advantage. So we're a very generous nation. No nation is close to as generous as we are. What we're talking about is ending the illegality. And it's only reasonable that a good and decent people, as the Americans are, to want to end the legality, to create a rational immigration flow and protect the nation from criminals. What's wrong with that? What could be wrong with that? The American people have urged, pleaded, demanded this of Congress and their presidential leaders for years, 30, 40 years. And they make promises after promises. I've been there. I was in the debates. And these promises and promises get made, but when the dust settles, nothing gets fixed. It's time to fix some of these problems. One time. And you in law enforcement have been asking the same thing. I want to say, last month, nearly 400 sheriffs from across America sent a letter to the Congress asking them to finally secure the border, to take action on the sanctuary cities problem. Congress has got to listen to the American people and help President Trump, not block what he's trying to do, what he got elected to do. And it cannot be, as it seems to be today, that someone who illegally crosses the border here on a Monday, ends up in San Francisco on Wednesday, can never be deported. That's what they're saying. We're in a sanctuary city. Even if they were hauling dope to San Francisco and they got arrested, they can't be deported. Now, how illogical and insane really is that? This is the kind of thought process that's causing much of the problem, and we've got to challenge it, go at it head on, and I think the American people are going to choose common sense and law enforcement, myself. And it cannot be that a great nation rewards those who enter the country, reward them with legal status, Social Security, welfare, food stamps, and work permits. That doesn't make sense. See, the first thing you do is stop rewarding financially people who come across the border illegally. The United States of America, let me say this, is not an idea. It's a nation state. We have a constitution, we have laws, we have borders. Our constitution, like Canada's and Mexico's, does not apply outside our nation states. So we don't have anything to apologize in terms of the history of a good law enforcement system here. Most Americans understand it, and they agree with us. Under President Trump, we have seen wages increase at the fastest pace in many years, maybe 2 decades, which I think is good. But if you read some of these business journals, oh, wages are going up. This is horrible. How could that be horrible? There actually wages go up for a change in this country instead of going down. It shows how some of the people that are pulling the strings on these issues are how they think. And the open borders crowd are using that argument right now. And certain sectors of the business community are whining about having to pay a little higher wage to some hard-working American for a change. But absolutely, we cannot allow and create a system that floods the labor market with foreign workers who are willing to work for less, pulling down the wages of Americans who need a better chance to advance themselves. This is a fact of life. You bring in a labor flow higher than can be absorbed, you do impact negatively the wages of Americans. So it hurts particularly recent immigrants who are trying to get their feet on the ground, as well as our minorities. They are clearly suffering the most from these policies. And they have dreams too. They want to do well too. With President Trump, we have a new era of support for law enforcement like we haven't seen in many years. You might even say we've got a new sheriff in town. Under his strong leadership, we are working to take criminals off the streets by restoring the rule of law and really protecting and fixing our immigration system. First of all, the President has ordered the Department of Defense to work with the Department of Homeland Security to secure our border. We're going to have as many as 4,000 National Guardsmen come. They can help. Certain things they are not able to do and will not be doing, but there are many ways that they could be supportive and helpful to us. Second, the Department of Justice is taking actions to bring down this huge backlog of cases we have in our immigration courts. And it's a challenge. This includes the surge that we've seen for a number of years that has been reduced, but we are bringing as many as 100 immigration judges to the border areas so that we can process these cases more effectively. And we're actively working with our partners at Homeland Security to ensure that we can deploy judges electronically and by video teleconference. Can help us handle a lot more cases a lot more efficiently. And I made it clear to our immigration judges. These judges, the immigration judges, are part of the Department of Justice. They're part of our system to ensure that people who come into the country, lawfully or unlawfully, can get a fair hearing on any claims that they have a right to make. But they're not Title III federal judges. They're part, like a Social Security administrative law judge. They're out to try to make the Social Security system work right, or try to make the immigration system work right. So we're asking them to do more, and we're trying to use their resources and their capabilities as efficiently as possible. We need them to complete cases, not have to complete them or put cases on hold. We're now directing them to complete at least 700 cases a year. That's about the past average that judges have been completing. Some that are far below that, and we'd like them all. If they're going to be evaluated, they're not unaccountable in their work, and most of them are doing that anyway. But we're going to ask them to do more. It's not a radical goal. It's a policy of ours to have consistency and efficiency and productivity in our immigration system. Third, we've appointed a border security coordinator in each United States Attorney's Office, each of whom carry a number of responsibilities to ensure the restoration of law in the immigration system. Here in New Mexico, that's Terry Abernathy. I bet a lot of you know her. She's a fabulous prosecutor. She knows her work. I just met with her, and she's determined to be as effective as she can. We have them in every office, all of our 94 United States Attorney's offices around the country, because people who get past the border or otherwise enter illegally come up in New York to Washington State too. We're going to deal with those cases more effectively. Cities, states, and counties that knowingly, willfully, and purposefully release criminal agents back into their communities are sacrificing the lives and safety of American citizens, law enforcement officers, in pursuit of an extreme open borders policy. That's the only way you can describe the idea that a city or a county refuses to even allow our ICE officers to pick up criminal aliens. They're protecting even those who came into their city to bring drugs, fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, or commit other crimes. They are blocking us from the ability to identify them and remove them from their communities. So it cannot continue. If you're not willing to deport somebody who comes into your jurisdiction, your city, or your county, then who are you willing to deport? Nobody, right? And that's not a national policy that we can sustain. It's a radical policy. We need to call it for what it is. So we're not asking you, our local law enforcement, to enforce immigration laws for the federal government. Our ICE officers do an incredible job at Border Patrol every day. But we welcome your voluntary cooperation. I'd encourage you to consider joining the effective 287G program. It has languished. Maybe we can make it better, but I'd like to see that be improved too. And we're determined finally, let me say, to end the catch and release. On Friday, President Trump ordered me to report to him on what we have done in this regard, what we can do in the future to fix the broken program. That same day, I ordered a change to the Department of Justice criminal prosecution policies on those who enter the country illegally. I've ordered each United States Attorney's Office along the southwest border to have a zero-tolerance policy toward illegal entry. Our goal is to prosecute every case that is brought to us. There must be consequences for illegal actions. Our team in New Mexico, and I mean this sincerely, has already demonstrated its effectiveness over the last 2 years, with illegal entry prosecutions increasing 7-fold in just 1 year, and we'll have even bigger increases in 2018. They are meeting the goals that we need the rest of the board to meet. We're making this our national policy, and so to send a clear message. If you break into our country, we will prosecute you. Just that simple. Our goal ultimately is not arrest, see how many we can arrest, but our goal is to deter people from attempting to come illegally. That's what we have to be seeking to do. That's what we can do. Ultimately, ending illegal immigration will require action from Congress, and if Congress wanted to, they could virtually help us end this problem right away. You want to know the truth? It's time for Congress to take some action on these matters. A great nation cannot allow this lawless disgrace to continue. Sheriffs in this room know what's happening. You know the nation deserves better. So I want to close by reiterating my deep appreciation and profound thanks to all of our sheriffs. It's meant a lot to our country. It's meant a lot to law enforcement. I believe that your deputies, our police officers, are feeling better about themselves. There are a lot of indications that morale nationwide is up. That makes me really feel good. Too often they felt disrespected in their work, And it's got to be, when you're placing your life on the line every day, that's got to be particularly discouraging. So I feel real good about that progress. It should make us more productive. Since even before our nation's founding, the independently elected sheriff has been seen as the people's protector, keeping law enforcement close to, accountable to, amenable to the people of this country. The work you do, that you have dedicated your lives to, is essential for public safety in America. I believe it. The Department of Justice believes it. President Trump believes it. And you can be certain about this. We have your back. You have our thanks. Thank you all. And God bless you. Thank you for your attention. Training what we're doing is your essential room at this time.
Ahorita si lo necesitas ya no me lo pidas, porque no te lo voy a pasar. No lo que quieras.
It should be the right one, so it's twice a week.
Yeah, that's when you stop. When you just encourage. That's got to stop.
And your thoughts about this transnational organization? I mean, is it an issue in your county where you see these transnational criminal organizations that?
No, but all over the country.
But you don't necessarily see them in your county or where you.
My county's unique, and don't even hard to see that. But they come to my county. Hundreds of them come to my county. They live right here. Take from there. What they're up to, we don't know. They come sometimes to work, some people are alive, but we don't know what they come from. But the thing is, what part of illegal entry they don't understand. It's illegal. Period. There's a process for this. And they got to go through it. But they don't want that process. They want the handout. That's American people are putting the bill for that. You think that's right?
I'm not the one to say.
No. You think that's right? I'm asking a question.
Me? I'm not the one to say.
Okay. You don't want to answer that question, right?
I'm not in a position to make that decision.
Well, but you're in a position to ask it, right? It's not fair, right? It's only one-way street here. It is fair.
I'm not an elected official.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
Okay, so and your thoughts, I mean, do you feel that, having a border wall is going to help deter any of this? Or
It will.
Okay, you do feel that it will?
Yes, it will. In many ways.
And what would you like to see from the federal government in terms of aid for resources? When you talk about having technology or having
More technology for the border is even better. More boots on the ground is even better, but technology will help a lot. It'll go a long way. Funding for the border sheriff will go a long ways because we know the problem, we know the issue, so does the border patrol. But we're on the border where we're short-handed, we can use the extra resources. Okay? And by doing so, we can slow it down. We won't stop it, but we'll slow it down.
Do you feel that the deployment of National Guardsmen in Texas, what do you feel that they can help with?
They can help deter, alleviate the pressure when they're doing administrative work. They can go in there and do that part, and the border patrol can go in and do the actual work because they're tied up most of the time in the office processing these illegal aliens, and they're not out in the field. When they're not out in the field, they're just going to cross them more and more. then coming in, we alleviate pressure, and then they can go out and kill.
Last question. How do I spell your name correctly, officer?
Spell it.
How do I spell your name?
As you speak.
I'm sorry?
Dominguez.
Wonderful.
All right?
It was nice to meet you, sir.
Yes, sir. Likewise,
Hey,
have a
I'm
good
sorry.
day.
Can I get a few words from Telemundo? Do you speak Spanish by any chance? Or hearing English? Just two questions.
Tex-Mex.
Tex-Mex. We're there. Okay. Thank you. ¿Me puede dar su primer nombre y apellido, por favor?
Mi nombre es Daniel Domínguez, el chico de condado presidio.
Dígame, ¿qué es lo que opina sobre la decisión de Trump de querer poner más cuotas en la frontera aquí en
We're not the enforcing immigration law. We're not immigration officers. We are out there in the desert doing search and rescue. It's only inhuman out there because we do come across, peyotes getting paid. And once they get paid, they abandoned folks coming from Central America, from Mexico, and we're out there basically doing search and rescue. And that's what we're out there. We're not enforcing immigration law. No.
So that part of his speech necessarily didn't resonate.
Not with me. No. Maybe with other sheriffs possibly, but no.
Was the speech specific enough for you? Senator Cervantes said it was a generic speech.
Well, everybody has their own opinions.
But you feel reassured in the sense of the things that you are dealing with law enforcement. You do feel like the Justice Department, with Sessions there, is hearing you out.
I hope so. Like I said, we met with them privately, each of the sheriffs and border, and at least he heard us out. So hopefully he'll take that back to DC, and hopefully we'll get some solutions.
How much help do you really feel as the sheriff? How much help do you feel you really need from the federal government? Do you feel like we're at a point of crisis along the border, as President Trump has said?
No, each county is facing different problems along the side of the border. I can't speak for. Well, I did get here from some of the other sheriffs from southern Texas. They're having some problems down there with flow of drugs, violence. They're the ones down there, and they know what's happening down there. The open areas up in Arizona, but here in New Mexico, we're not having as much violence. I truly believe that we ought to be getting more money to address issues with mental illness, violence at the schools, which is rampant nationwide. We need to put a stop to that. There's other issues that we need to take care of here first.
What about National Guard troops on the border? Do you support that?
That comes along with the law. There's modern technology. In this age, there's modern technology. We can secure borders with modern technology. The walls would be a waste. It takes a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of money. Why don't you pour all that money into some of the problems that we're facing here in the nation, like mental illness, our schools, infrastructures. You build a wall, you're going to get around the wall, and you're going to pour a lot of money to. I'm totally against it.
Jeff Sessions said it's like an open invitation. You don't feel like that's the case then? You don't support Trump's border wall?
I don't support the wall. I don't. There's like I said, there's modern technology that we can use out there in this age.
You brought up MS-13 and how sheriffs told us that that's a big issue here. Is that in fact an issue in this border?
The MS-13 gangs, we have various gangs here. As a matter of fact, we're going through some gang training. We have met with our Mexican counterparts from the PGR, PGR, which is comparable to our federal prosecutors. We've met with some of our counterparts from the Mexican police in Juarez, the State Attorney General's office, and we're sharing the intel information on the gangs that are doing business with the gangs here in New Mexico too, as far as Santa Fe, and that's some of the intel that we've been sharing along in all this training. So I was also happy to see the Mexican consulate's office yesterday, and they're also here, also informing us about the new consular matricula card for identification. When either one of my deputies, makes a stop, well, guess what? When they ask for an ID, they'll have one of these matricula cards, and we will be, we will be accepting those as ID cards. Yes.
Do you believe that Sessions left with an accurate picture of what your job is like here on the border?
Well, I hope he, after sitting down and hearing us out, I hope he does feel that he knows what we're out here doing, our jobs. We're here to provide public safety for everybody. Public safety for everybody.
But do you think that he has an accurate picture of what law enforcement is like on the border for you?
You know, I believe he does because he's been touring the Southwest quite a bit, down Texas, and he had the opportunity to come here to Las Cruces, and like he heard each of us shows that we're here at this meeting. So hopefully he'll take that back to Washington and also convince some of our legislators and the president pour some money down here, not for the wall, but for other issues that we're facing, within our communities. We do have a gang problem in our, bigger communities. We do, to a certain point, we do have a gang problem here, flow of drugs, I know, because I have meetings with our Metro Narcotics Board, and I get what they're doing out there. There is meth coming in from Arizona, across the border, but we've always had that problem. But we need to address that issue. This meth is getting out of hand. It's getting stronger, more addictive. School violence. We need to keep our kids safe at our schools.
One of the things Sessions brought up was voluntary law enforcement helping the Border Patrol. Is that something you all will consider?
No, not for my office. We're not immigration officers to enforce immigration. We're here to protect everybody. Very well. Enrique Kiki Vigil, Doña County Sheriff here in Las Cruces.
Thank you so much. Sheriff.
Thank you so much, sir.
How relevant is this?